funnel testing. So this is very simple. Okay, so this is uh, comparing to the A/B testing. This specifically try to understand okay how the user flows through the different stages of customer journey. So if you see this diagram, okay, this is an example of funnel. So how many people searches, okay, how many people watches videos, how many people clicks the new buttons, and how many people finally converted into sale. Similar to A/B testing, we can have a funnel testing. So what is the different stages of customer, and how many customers are being, how many prospects are being converted into a customer. So basically, now how do we interpret this testing? So you put a lot of hypothesis, the hypothesis being tested. So how do you, what will be the final interpretation of different kind of success metrics? We may use couple of success metrics. So how do you come to a conclusion? We may not use one success metric. We may use multiple metrics. We may use multiple kind of testing methods. So what will be, how do we finally arrive at the conclusion? Whether we should go with this particular MVP or whether we should completely ignore it. We should completely stop this plan. Okay. So how do we come to the conclusion? Now, basically, there is a concept called leap of faith assumption. So what is my leap of faith? Okay. So basically it talks about, okay, how much faith, okay, I will have it. Okay. If you want to launch this MVP in the market, if you launch this product in the market. So basically, we will call these assumptions into, or put these assumptions into two categories. One is called value hypothesis and growth hypothesis. So we have seen a lot of success metrics, or we have seen a lot of hypotheses. So basically, we can put these hypotheses into two categories. One is called value hypothesis and one is called growth hypothesis. So this is how do we conclude, okay, before the final decision whether we should go ahead with particular this MVP or not. What is value hypothesis? Whether this product is really delivering value to the customers after they start using it. Okay, whether they perceive okay enough value okay when they use the product. So what can be the growth hypothesis? So yeah, so one testing metric can be retention rate. One another testing metrics can be the customer satisfaction rate. Okay, another customer acquisition rate, the revenue per user. So we can identify a couple of metrics under value hypothesis. So what is a growth hypothesis? So whether this test how the new customers will discover the product, okay, whether uh, it can leads to more and more sales, more and more revenue for the company. So what can be the probable metrics for the growth hypothesis? Can be an acquisition metrics. So can be a referral rate, can be a net promoter score, okay, market share, okay, being increased. Okay. So these are called growth hypothesis. So let us take an example of Facebook. Okay, so how did Facebook actually use the value hypothesis and growth hypothesis in the initial stages? So Facebook is created by Mark Zuckerberg, okay, during while he was studying in Harvard University. So initially, okay, this was actually set up to connect between the friends inside the university itself. Okay, so initially after testing inside the university, okay, they are getting a couple of users from outside university also. So in 2004, okay, Facebook had 1.5 lakh registered users, but had a little revenue. So in summer, they raised around 5 lakh US dollars in venture capital. Later on, they raised additional 12.7 million US dollars. So how much? So how was Facebook able to raise so much money? So nowadays, okay, startups are getting a lot of okay very fancy funds, okay, a lot of fund from venture capital. Now, how do venture capitals measure okay the success of startups? Okay, so they use such kind of tools which we are discussing earlier. So basically, venture capital will look into growth hypothesis and value hypothesis. For example, in the case of validated hypothesis, value hypothesis, so the retention rate yeah, exactly, the retention rate was more than half of the users okay came back to the site every single day. So they keep on continuing, or the engagement rate was very high. Okay, so that shows that okay, product having rich in features, so it gives a lot of value to the customers. The growth hypothesis, so they actually had a test and they understood that almost after the launch, almost 3/4 of the Harvard undergraduates were using it. So this was done without any spend in the marketing or on advertisements. So the growth hypothesis is also being validated. The net promoter score, a lot of people are referring Facebook. So based on these two, okay, the venture capital were convinced, and they finally, okay, had a great initial VC. Now Facebook itself is now become a VC nowadays. So let me show one real life example. Okay, MVP testing. Can you see a black slide? So this is done by me. Okay, so what we are trying to do is, okay, we are trying to do a industry immersion program for the final year college graduates. Okay, so couple of objectives. So one is, okay, we want to identify the early talent itself. Okay, so we had a lot of backfiring when it comes to the mass hiring of freshers. Okay, so we made a lot of hiring mistakes. So we want to understand, okay, the people in the early itself. So we want to engage with the campus. Okay, so we are trying to do a bit of something called industry immersion program with the colleges. So I prepared a lead canvas. Okay, so the duration. So we had a MVP testing for 3 batches. Okay, so I mean these are the name of the colleges. Okay, so we had three batches. Um, so one. So these are some of the feedback. Okay, yeah, let's see it. And just sum to the leap of faith conversation. Value hypothesis. So we have taken the feedback. The out of 5, okay, we got around 4.6. Now 10% conversion to the placements. Okay, so we had to be tested because we need to administrate the test which we are giving to the freshers to these people. So we need to have a control group and we need to have experimental group. Growth hypothesis, okay, NPS score, okay, so the we have we set a parameter of 9. Okay, we got a NPS score of 9. So inquiry for other programs is we got a inquiry at least 2 programs from each college. So that is the growth hypothesis. Apart from the metrics, what I shared earlier, okay, so you can have a qualitative measurement also. So maybe you can give a feedback capture grid, and we can understand, okay, what are the likes of the customer, what are the different criticisms shared by the customer, what are the questions, and what are the different ideas. Okay, so this give you a little bit of qualitative kind of feedback. So I have shared few qualitative kind of feedback earlier. You have seen that, am I right? So these are some of the qualitative feedback. So where we can understand, okay, what are the criticisms, okay, what are the ideas, okay. Now, maybe after seeing all the statistics, management may ask few more questions, okay. So some management may be keen to understand whether this will create any kind of social value, okay. Assume that you are giving a preferential treatment for the elderly people in the book my show. So that shows that, okay, it is creating some kind of social value. You are respecting the age people, okay. You understand their pain points. So that's something called social value creation. Stakeholder satisfaction, okay, whether this particular MVP, okay, increase the multiple stakeholders rather than specifically confining to one stakeholder. Whether this solution can sustain. So what is solution sustainability? Long term. For example, the restaurants, okay. So Satish was mentioning about beverage. Okay. Yeah, that will come under scalability. Sorry. Now, the biggest challenge for the restaurants is getting scalable. Okay. For example, you the who is the which is the biggest risk for a restaurant? Okay, the chef. Okay. Now it is very difficult to standardize the product across different places. Okay. Only except few restaurant chains like KFC and McDonald's. Other people find it very difficult to scale it in a big way. Okay. because the taste can be different. It triggers a lot of standardization, a lot of quality check, because otherwise the brand will get impacted. Okay. Now, sustainability. Okay, so this MVP should sustain in different kind of business environments. We have seen, okay, Byju's, okay, and other edutechs, okay, they were growing exponentially during the COVID time. So they got a lot of venture capital and they are flooded with a lot of money. Okay, now we have seen that all the edtech companies are into a big loss. So a lot of people approach me, okay, since I'm heading a learning and development of IT companies. They are asking whether we'll be able to acquire that edtech companies because they have a lot of technology, they have a lot of platforms. Okay, so sustainability is a big issue. So whether this particular MVP can sustain to the different kind of business environment. So it is not a hard and fast rules, but when it comes to the final decision making by the management, they may actually go for these four criteria: whether it will create any kind of social value, whether multiple stakeholders are getting satisfied, whether the solution can sustain over a period of time, whether the solution can be scalable to different places or different geographies. This is a very simple technique. Okay, I mean, if you don't want to use a lot of analytics, okay, you want to have a quick understanding about the MVP, impact of MVP, you can do something called quick wins. Okay.
Okay.
So how does quick wins? It's like the quadrant, okay, like an actionable ideation. Okay. So the horizontal axis talks about the easy to implement, okay, this MVP, or easy to implement this idea, or not idea, the prototype, whether it is easy or difficult to implement. The impact on the customer, impact on the users, whether it will have a high impact. So
Yeah.
the prototype having a high impact, and it is basically easy to implement. It does not require huge technology, or it does not require huge investment. The time for implementation is very less. Maybe we can put it into a something called quick wins. We can quickly, okay, implement this MVP. Yeah, this is comparatively simple technique. Okay, you don't use a lot of analytics. Maybe a basic survey
Yeah.
can help. Okay.